Okay guys, so we finished the last video in the middle of this function here called get headers and units. And so in this video, we're going to finish it and see the results. So we're going to start with a bit of housekeeping. And hear me out. It took me a while to come up with this solution, but I think it's the best solution for this. And it's important to kind of follow this approach because you want to have some structure for your data. Anyway, you'll see what I mean in a second. So basically we have different headers here, and they have certain elements that are common between 2014 and 2016. There's country here, city in here, EO, I or L in here, and so on. So I want to store those headers with the common pieces. So I'm going to do something like this. Follow me. Class Excel headers. If you want this to be every class, if you want them to be compatible with Python 2.7 or Python 2, you need to pass object, but I assume I'm going to use only Python 3, so I'm going to leave it this way. And I'm going to do something like this. And again, I went through all that data and I made sure all those bits that I'm going to write down now are unique for each header, and they're common for 2014 and 16. And you'll see in a second what I mean, so just bear with me. Ta-da! Okay, no point for you to watch me writing all this down. What's happening here is I built this class that will help me to keep track of the names that I'm using here. So country, it's just easier for me to remember, and also to use it with PyCharm because I can use the autocomplete. And each value here is a value, is a string that I'm going to look for each header to determine which header that is. Okay, so and then I'm going to also use those strings through Excel headers dot country dot city dot station EOI and so on to extract the headers. So just you'll see in a second. I kind of don't want to waste time on explaining what am I doing here. Then I have choices that are taking all those values from here. So there's city, country, city, station code, and so on. And I'm going to use it here. So these are all the options for all the headers, and I'm going to start mapping them. Map headers with their indices. And now for choice, so for header, really header name, but I'm going to just go with choice in Excel headers dot choices. So I have this ready, and I can reuse it in different places. So, and we will reuse it. Let's just do this. If choice in header, then put in headers dictionary with the key choice, and we want to put in the index. So we want to put an index of a column here and not a letter. It's a little bit confusing, but basically there are two different approaches of going through Excel worksheet. One is showing exactly, okay, I want the worksheet. Where is the example here? Header. Okay, I want a worksheet, and I want to extract a column A, B, C, D, and row 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, or sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I want to get the value. But we can also iterate through the worksheet using rows, and each row is a list of values. So we need an index in this case. So we need to take I, and we're still in this for loop here. So we are taking this I, and instead of adding 65 to it, we actually just leave it as it is. We go from 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. And now we are finished. So maybe I could have finished that the last time, but anyway, we have all those ready to return. So let's return them. So headers row, headers dictionary, and units. Okay. And let's go here and put in a little print test and breakpoint here. Refresh just to make sure. Give me more. Let's refresh this, resend. And so we got the headers row, we got headers and the units. Let's have a look at them. Headers row is 9. That's true. Headers. Oops, headers. I want to get headers. But in here it's just header. And it's only country, so there's something wrong. We need more. Okay, so I hate those little mistakes. I had to stop for a second because I made a mistake here, and you probably saw it, and I didn't for a while. But yeah, I just put a wrong indentation here as well. So basically, after finding the first header, it was just returning everything, and that's not correct. Now that is fixed, and let's have a look here. Print test. So I'm going to just print test here just to be able to put a breakpoint here. Make sure our PyCharm is up to date. And refresh. Boom. So let's have a look. First sheet has been processed, at least the headers. So we have headers row is 9. Then we have headers, and you can expand it here. So country is index 0, city is 1, station code is 2, 3, 4, and so on. 7, 6, and then 8, because here is the units, and we skip the units, as you might remember. Then 8, 9, 10, and we have only 10 index. Max index is 10. So we go from 0 to 10, and we have 11. We have 11 headers altogether. And in units, I can see that it's milligrams per cubic meter. So that's what I wanted to find. So we are ready for continuing processing. We know where the headers are, we know what the headers are, and we know what the units are. So we are in a good shape to continue. Let's release this now and get rid of this line. And before we start, there's another thing that I came across and gave me some problems. How do we approach the countries? So one is country ISO, one is country by name. They are pretty unique. So if that's the name for former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, every time it's the same name. So at least we have some consistency here, but there is no consistency between two different formats. And what I had to do was basically taking all of those names that I found in 2016 and match it with all the ISO codes for each country. And unfortunately, we need to kind of force those countries into the database before we can continue. There is no straightforward way of saying, okay, if you see Montenegro, obviously go and check whatever is Montenegro, ME or something, I think. So what I did, I put some time and I created this Excel file that I used for building a very simple view that we can use for creating all those countries and putting them in our database. So let's go down here and in views. So I'm going to just make this a little bit smaller. In views, I'm going to create this temp, because we're going to delete that at the end. We just need something. Oh, I'm going to keep it, but you know, we don't use it every time. Creator and request. And in here, we are gonna put a dictionary of all the countries and their ISO codes, and then using that dictionary, we're gonna put it into our database. Boom, that's done. So as you can see, that's the dictionary that I mentioned. There is a country name and country ISO code, and I'll leave that in a comment somewhere so you can copy and paste it. Okay guys, quick break here. I actually realized that it could be a good idea to at least show you how I went from this to this. And it actually takes way less time if you know how to approach it than if you want to do one by one. So let's do a quick exercise. Countries 2, and that's a dictionary. And so I'm going to copy all those entries from Excel to here, and as you can see, it tries to format it in a way that it's not usable for me for now. So I'm gonna just Command Z, and what happens is it tries to analyze the text that I'm pasting, and even if I try something like special paste as a plain text, Oh, it worked. Ha, okay, so this is it. I think I tried that before, maybe in the wrong way. So basically you need to paste it as a plain text. That's a good thing. So now you have a bunch of text that is better than nothing. But how to go from this to this? Well, basically, if you're using Mac, you can use Option key. I think in Windows you're using Alt or Control. Try to use Alt or Control, left or right. I think they sometimes have different functions. And try to do something like this. Holding the key, in my case it's Option, double click or basically select all the countries. In this case I can double click. In this case I need to hold. So if it's just one word, I can just double click. If it's more than one word, I need to drag, hold and drag. Okay, so I noticed that my cursor was here as well, because what I did was I left the cursor here, then I scrolled up and holding Option, I started with Albania. But I should have started with Albania first and then holding Option, I should have selected the rest of them. Anyway, so we have them all selected. As you can see, our cursor is in multiple places, which is pretty brilliant. Now all we have to do when you select a text and you use something like a bracket or curly brace or a quotation mark, PyCharm knows that you probably want to encapsulate selected text with this special character. Not all the characters work, but for example, quotation mark does. And as you can see, all I had to do is select them all and just hit quotation mark, and they all got encapsulated with the quotation marks, just like we need in our dictionary. Then the next thing that we need in dictionary is a colon. So I can use the right arrow and again, and now we're on every line, we're behind the quotation mark. So now we just put a colon here. And now again, we know that the next character is a tab because we took it from Excel. So I used Shift and right to select it. And now I'm gonna just press spacebar to change it into a space. And now what I can do is again, select two ISO code letters because they're always two. So if it's not just two, you can do something like this. When you're at this point before the text, you can select Shift, Command, and Right, and it's gonna select everything that is behind that point on that line, and then again just hit quotation mark, and then go to right and comma, and that should fix it all. So now we have all the text in the right format, but as you can see, it's that the indentation is not correct. So what you can do is you can use Option Command L to beautify. And now we have a nice dictionary, and it takes way less time than doing one by one. And what we want to do is something like this. For country name dot country, or just ISO code in countries dot items. Okay, so we want to iterate through this dictionary using items. So basically it's going to give us two results. One is the key and one is the value. So sometimes you just put key and value in here, but I just want to be more implicit. And in here, what we want to do is we want to gather. So maybe in here to insert is a list, insert is a list. At the top, obviously, we want to get the country, and to insert, and in here we want to do something like this. So in models, let's just check what do we have in countries. We have a name. We don't have an ISO, so ISO code models char field max length is 2. Yes. Yes, so should be 2, and we're gonna make it as well primary key. So maybe let's take it to the top. Okay. And obviously we need to do the migrations. So, oops. Obviously you can't just leave it like this. I'm gonna just comment it out for a second so there are no errors. Terminal Python manage py make migrations. And there is, okay, so trying to add non-nullable field ISO code. We can't do that to the database with something in it. There are some countries in there. So provide one off or quit. I'm gonna quit because it needs to be unique by default. By default, it needs to be unique. So I'm gonna just go to countries. So if you get this, if you wanna fix your table and before migration you go and see, oh, my admin doesn't work, it obviously is not synced, so you need to get rid of all the changes that are not synced. Sorry, not name, but ISO code. So let's, oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, so let's go back. Now it shouldn't be giving me any problems. And I can see here there are no entries, and that's weird because it shouldn't give me any errors then. If it's primary key, it can be null, obviously. So I'll try this. I'll try to migrate again, and I'll give a one-off value like IA. Did work because there's nothing to put in that AA2. So the unique, they're still unique. Those all 0 entries. And now we need to Python manage py and migrate. Oof. Foreign key mismatch, air pollution, referencing air pollution country. What's going on here? Oh, okay, so I'm trying to make this a primary key. And we already assigned something to it. So, well, listen, it's good to see some errors because we can tackle them. So let's see what is using country as a foreign key. So here is country. So what I could do is I can get rid of this. What did it say? So foreign key mismatch, air pollution entry, referencing air pollution country. So I'm gonna get rid of this for a sec and also get rid of, well, leave this. No, we need to, now I'm in a pickle because we have the migrations made, but we don't have, so it's gonna try to do the first migration and then the second migration. So what I'm gonna do something like this. I go to air pollution and I'm gonna get rid of this. So just delete this migration because that's gonna give me an error. And now what I'm gonna do is get rid of this as well so that ISO code is gone. This is gone, save it and make migrations. That's done, and then we migrate. That's done as well. Now I uncomment this and save and make migrations, and it gives me problems. So I'm gonna put something like this. That worked. Now I want to migrate. That worked, and now I'm uncommenting this and make migrations. And it's saying null nullable, so I'm gonna just again put in something in here like 1. So basically, hey, if there is a country there, just as default put 1 in there, but neither of these tables have any information in it, so it shouldn't really asking me for this. But anyway, and now let's just migrate. Oof, okay, we had an error, we fixed it, so it's a good practice. And now we have our ISO code that is serving as a primary key as well. Let's collapse this. Another break. Again, I think I'm skipping some important steps here. I never went through migrations and what they are and what happens after we type in Python manage py migration, make migrations. So maybe a quick note would be a good idea here. So as you've seen me doing, I had to do some magic to get out of a bit of a jam there with my migration that was incorrect and I couldn't migrate it, so I deleted the file. So let's go from the initial migration maybe. And as you can see here, what happens is after making a model in models py, it translates it to something that Django understands and what can be then used as a program to build the SQL code. It basically builds an SQL code, and here is all the Python code that makes it, and it all obviously uses some of the Django capability here, like migrations and models and so on. So again, don't want to go too deep into it, but it's important to know that every time you create a migration, each app creates its own. So if we go to website, for example, each app creates its own migration file that represents the difference between the previous state and the next state. So if for some reason you make the make migrations and something goes wrong and the migration doesn't work, like you could see just a second ago, you can delete that migration, meaning that Django doesn't know that this migration was made in the first place. And let's go back in here. So in here we want to okay, so let's again look here. All we can put in for now for each country is ISO code and name, and that's all we have actually. So it's a good coinky dinky. To insert, append country that takes ISO code, and that's going to be ISO code, and also country name. Oh, sorry, name is country name. Okay, and so I'm putting that into an insert variable. So then we can do something like this: country dot objects dot bulk create, and I'm going to just pass to insert. And that's the quick way of sending a lot of entries instead of going like one by one, save, 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 and so on. What I did was, in memory, I created objects that are not saved in the database yet of each of the countries. I put them all in the to insert variable, a list, and then using that list full of the country objects, I say, hey, country bulk create all of them. And so let's have a look if it works. Obviously, we need to create this URL. So let's create a URL for this path. I'm going to call it, say, temp country creator, the same name, views temp country creator. I just pass it as an object, name is the same. Okay, and now save it. Let's go to the debugger and see if everything is okay. It seems to be fine, no errors. And let's go in here and air pollution / temp country creator. Enter. So there was no response, but I assume it went through and it did what I wanted to do. So probably I could, in views, I should have returned something. What I did was I just like kind of finished, and obviously there's no HTTP answer. So I can easily just put this, copy and paste, and context will be, there was a message there, yeah? Yeah. I'll just copy this context from here and change the message to countries created. And to be honest, we just want to do it once, so really I'm putting too much effort in it. But maybe just to, we can check if the countries are in there, and as you can see, they're all in here. And there are codes and names, so that's cool. Let's delete them all and redo the whole process. So we have no countries, and let's go back, cancel. So let's go to here, enter. And as you can see, countries created successfully. So that has been returned to us. And if we go to the database, you can see that all the countries are in there. Okay, so it seems to be fine. Again, that was something that we needed to create for making sure that we can use those countries as we envisioned that. So we want each country to be an entry, and each pollutant entry, so pollution entry, should use that country entry as a foreign key instead of just a name or just an ISO. Okay, so we're getting closer and closer. Now we can continue with processing of our data in our view. So we have the row, we have the headers row, we have the headers, we have the units, we have all the countries in. So now we can actually go through all of the entries and start putting them where they belong.